it's Nikki here. I'm here today to do my movie review for Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets by J.K. Rowling. As you might have guessed based on my release schedule and the fact that I just released my book reviews. This is the second installment in the Harry Potter series. You get your big return to Hogwarts with style, as Harry and Ron decided to do. You get an intro to Dobby, you get to meet Lockhart, and shit goes down and Voldy turns up. It's your typical Harry Potter movie. So let's just get into it. I'll start with my likes and dislikes. My first like is how they established the Weasley family. I loved the way it showed their family ties, their love for each other, their redheadedness, their sense of fun, their sense of loyalty, and just the way they felt like a home and the way they welcomed Harry into their home. It was beautiful, and I think it translated over really well from the book. Then we get my second like, which is Ron. This is very similar to what I had in my book reviews. I really loved the sense of Ron's character that we got and how much development it got, because you got his sense of bravery, his sense of loyalty, his familial ties, his just ability to be a good friend. And you get that with like the Floo powder where he's like, oh Harry, I should have realized, I'm sorry. This is what Floo powder is. The fact that he goes out to meet Aragog with him. The fact that when they panic, they decide and need to get to school, they decide to like commit hard as a team. And I love Ron in that sense, and he doesn't get a lot of love in later books, and he's really not one of my favorite characters, but he does get a lot of good screen time in this movie. And that leads me to my third like, and that is that they kept all of the major plot points in the right order with most of the right people involved, and it really allowed for the character development to occur very similarly to how it occurred in the book, which was awesome. And with that, I'll go to the dislikes. My first dislike is the way it dwelled on a lot of the action and drama. And although I thought it wasn't to the detriment of the story in the first movie when this happened, I actually found it a lot more detrimental in the second one here. And that's because it ended up focusing on the Quidditch and the Chamber of Secrets in a way that extended them far past what their screen time should have been. Like, yes, the Chamber of Secrets was really important, but the important part was Harry's interaction with Tom and then killing the snake. They didn't need the big cat and mouse that they had of them running through these huge tunnel pipe things. That wasn't the important part. J.K. Rowling always does the action in such a way that she doesn't dwell on it to build drama. It's just, it is what it is, and you move on, and the fact that they changed that in the movie, I think, really detracted from the overall story. My second negative is that Lockhart isn't quite incompetent enough. This is pretty minor because he's still pretty silly in the book or in the movie. But in the book, he's silly because of how incompetent he is. He's not just silly. And this isn't an issue with the actor. The actor did a great job. It's just that there was a shift in focus in the role that Lockhart was playing in the story. And it wasn't a huge one, it was just minor. And I'm only mentioning it because I liked Lockhart's character in the book so much. And with that, I'll move into my third negative, and that is that there wasn't enough mention of how, like, the consequences of Harry speaking Parseltongue in front of the student body. In the book, everybody's like fearful and worried and concerned, except for Fred and George, who seem to think it's so ridiculous that he would be the heir to Slytherin that they're just marching around announcing it to the world. And Harry like really struggles with it in the book. And in the movie, it doesn't get mentioned at all. And I feel really bad because it was such a big character thing for Harry, just like in dealing with other kids being shits. And you don't get that in the movie. Like, you get a sense of it, but it just isn't as well laid out in the movie. And it's disappointing because I found it to be a pretty big thing with Harry in the book. And I'll launch into my characters now, since that is the end of my dislikes. And with the characters, I found that they did a pretty good job. All the actors of the main characters were really settling into their roles, and the people they got to do some of the more peripheral or temporary characters like Lockhart and the guy that they have voicing Dobby, I think, are just brilliant. They did a really good job. And as with the book and the movie, Harry and Hermione get a little bit of development, but the big development arc is really with Ron and his and when you meet his family and the things he does for Harry as they progress to try to save Hogwarts from Voldemort. I really enjoyed Lockhart. Like I said, even though he wasn't quite the same as in the book, the actor did a really great job. And he looked the part and acted the part, and it's just the character's role was a little bit changed. And you get Dobby, who is my absolute favorite. I think he's a lot of people's favorites. And you had such a good introduction to him, and he had such a good little arc, and you ended on such a high note that you were excited to see him when he came back. And as with the book, you really got a good sense that he was going to come back. And that's all I really have to say about the characters, so I will wrap this up. I'll do my 2 rating systems as I do typically. Both are out of 5 stars, and I'll start with the movie rating. This was a 4.5 out of 5. It was a really solid movie, and if you didn't know the book as well as many of us do, you probably really wouldn't have any issues with it because it was really well done. Even though I felt like the action detracted from the story that was in the book, if you've never read the book, the action's going to appeal to you quite a bit. It keeps the pacing up, it keeps the situations fun and dramatic when they need it to be. The energy from the action really carries you through the parts that lull a little bit. And really, like, if you've never read the book, you're not going to have a problem with this movie. And then you get the book to movie adaptation. And although once you get to the later books, the score will get low again because there's just so much book to get through, for how long this book was and how many things I was kind of disappointed with in how the translation went, the book to movie score here is really only going to be a 3.5 out of 5. It's not the worst, but it's not the best. And like I said, with how they emphasized the action parts a lot more in the movie, although I think that was really good to the movie, if you're translating the book to a movie, that was something that I probably wouldn't have made the same creative decision about because I felt like the pacing in the book was already really rushed and that you didn't need to emphasize the action parts to keep the energy up. But they kept all of the Ron time, they kept most of the character development, so that was really strong points in their favor as well. And I think a lot of this has to do with overall, this is just my least favorite story. And so no matter how good of a movie they make, I just wasn't going to enjoy it as much. But the negatives I listed, in terms of the movie, a lot of them were translation issues from the pages to the silver screen. And as such, that really did impact my score quite a bit for it. And that's all I have to say. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.